At the time of recording this, prices are going up, so if you're planning a 2025 wedding, I'm going to break down how you need to budget for this. Ciao, I'm Lucy. I'm an Italian wedding planner that's planned hundreds of weddings in Italy, and I founded Lista, a website that's there to support you in planning your Italian wedding. All I care about is that you have a really nice, calm and pleasant experience planning your wedding, and we're here to arm you with as much information as possible to make sure that that is your experience of planning. So my number one rule in planning is to not take any steps at all until you have a good budget in place. And by budget, I mean a forecast. So you've worked out exactly how much you're going to allocate to each budget line, things like venue, photographer, caterer. You've got a good understanding of that before you take any steps at all in planning. Why is that? Primarily, it just means that you're not going to get into any trouble as you go through planning. You know from the start that you can have the wedding that you actually want to have, or you've managed your own expectations around what you can include within your budget before you take any steps at all. It will stop, for example, you booking a really expensive venue that you can't actually afford, or taking any of those steps that could mean you get way too deep too quickly and you can't have the rest of the things that you want for your wedding. So how do you get a budget? First and foremost, in our shop on La Lista, there's a free budget template. Why not just download that? It has every single thing you need to think about when you're thinking of budgeting, everything you could possibly have within a wedding. So it's a really good place to start as a bit of a tick list. So how do you actually budget? Now, I'm not going to break down how to literally build a budget for 2025. That's far too much information. It would be a really long video. In my membership, the club, I have a video like this if you want to go and check that out. But for today, I'm just going to talk through averages, what people tend to spend on each different budget line and what things are looking like they're going to cost in 2025. Now, at the time of recording this, July 2023, prices are going up, but most venues and suppliers haven't yet had the chance to think about it and put their prices up. So if you get in there now and book your venue or your catering, you may actually secure slightly lower costs. But what we're seeing in the market at the moment is prices just continue to change. So a caterer doesn't just put their prices up for next year. Every month that they get new inquiries, they're fiddling with their pricing. Now, this is really hard to plan for because we don't know when it's going to settle down. So why are prices going up? Why do prices actually rise? So you've got to remember that all prices rise anyway with inflation over time, but we're in a crazy time. COVID's only just passed. So many businesses are still recovering from COVID, but at the same time, there's so many external factors that are affecting the costs of their businesses. The cost of fuel, the cost of people, the cost of the raw materials that actually make weddings. It costs more to hire materials from companies. It costs more to have things delivered. Everything costs more, and businesses have to cover those costs and they have to pass those costs on to the consumer. Alongside this, many businesses hadn't put their prices up for years and years and years before COVID, and businesses grow, businesses get better, people grow in their expertise, their knowledge, and they need to charge correctly for this. So alongside increasing prices for those external factors, they're also realizing what they should be charging for the service that they offer, and services are getting better and better. Couples are expecting more from suppliers, and suppliers are increasing the value of their service, which means they have to charge more as well. So all of these factors together means that prices are changing and prices are going up. Now, the good news is they haven't changed that much. They changed a lot last year, and we don't think they're going to change drastically in the coming years from what we've seen so far. So finally now, I'm going to take you through a budget breakdown. Let's go through the key pieces that make up an Italian wedding budget. There's loads of other things, but I'm just going to take you through the core biggest costs. So a venue, for example. You can rent a really nice venue for 3 nights that sleeps between 20 and 60 people from anywhere between €7,000 and €150,000. But I'd say the average cost at the moment, the average that I see people spend is around €20,000. On top of that, you've got event fees. People pay between €1,000 and €5,000 for an event fee, an exclusivity fee, something that covers you hosting a lot of people at that venue. Depending on the type of ceremony that you're going to have, you may have a town hall, you may have a civil ceremony. That costs between €600 and €2,000, and then you have your paperwork on top, which is about €500. If you're going to have a symbolic ceremony, you can obviously have no cost at all if a friend or family member do that role, but if you want a professional expert to take that role, it's around €600. Catering, this is a really big one that's different and that's constantly changing. We're actually seeing huge differences in prices between caterers, whereas before they were sort of aligned. You tend to have the same sort of pricing for caterers. They're all over the place now. So I'd say the average wedding where you've got about 60 guests, you're looking to pay anywhere from €170 up to 200, 300 euro. It can go way on depending on what you're going to have. But for a basic Italian wedding service, which runs all day, there's other videos here around catering. You can see what's included there, but you're going to have to budget. And I'd say, to be safe, I'm personally budgeting in my weddings around 200 euro per person for the full day, including the bar, just to be safe. Then on top of that, I'm always forecasting catering expenses, because this is where caterers have had to put in charges for things like transport. Caterers bring multiple lorries to weddings, and that's obviously got a big cost to them, renting those lorries, the fuel, etc, etc. And they used to all be included in the catering price, but that just can't happen anymore. So I'm always forecasting 2,000 to 4,000 euro for things like transport and for extras, things that you want included in your wedding menu that aren't included. So I see at my weddings that there's a difference between the Italian wedding menu that you have and the things that foreign couples want to have. So for example, there's no Prosecco for the speeches. They all have a set number of service hours, which is usually 7. We often want a wedding service to go on much longer than that. So this little buffer for catering is for all of these little extras that might come in beyond that set catering price. Hair and makeup for a bride, you're looking at least 600 euro, going up to around 1,000 euro just for the bride. This obviously depends on who you get, where they're from, lots of different factors. But I'd say on average these days, and looking into 2025, we're thinking about 800 euro just for the bride, and between 1 and 250 euro for each additional person for hair and makeup. Photographer, I'd say for anything that you want that's on trend, that's fashionable, really nice photography style, we're looking at around 5,000 euro for just the wedding day. Obviously you can spend less, you can spend way more, but that's what we're seeing that people spend. And it's the same for videographer. I'm sure these prices may change slightly over time now, but the brochures that we're getting through for 2025, we're looking at least 5,000 euro and often a little bit more. So I definitely allocate a minimum of 4,000 to 5,000 euro if you're looking for a videographer in 2025. The other big one is the catering at the other events that you may have around your wedding. And if you've watched any of my other videos on this, you'll know that I tend to deprioritize these events. You put more into your wedding, and then these events can be whatever you want them to be. They can be just drinks. But if you want to have catering at these events, the catering here has also risen. This is probably the budget area that's risen the most over the last few years. You used to be able to have a pizza party, someone come and cook pizzas for like 25 euro a person. This is now at least 50 or 60 euro per person. So don't under budget here. That is what you're going to have to allocate if you want to have someone come in, a caterer's come in with all their stuff and deliver some sort of relatively light meal. Now, that's all I'm going to touch on here, but you'll be surprised how quickly this adds up. So get that budget tracker, plug all of this in for your guest number, for all of the things that you want to have for your wedding, and see where you get to. You'll quickly be in tens of thousands of euro. That's why it's so important to know what you're doing and getting into before you book anything for your Italian wedding, because once you take that first step and you commit to the venue, you're in. And if you haven't got to grips with what things cost, you're going to be shocked quite quickly. Your budget's going to stack up quite quickly, and you're probably going to be disappointed because you can't achieve and have all of the things that you think you will want. As I've said throughout, there's a range of costs for everything, so you will always find lower cost suppliers and much more expensive suppliers. So if you do your research and you look hard enough, you will probably find what you want to fit within your budget. But just be careful, because it doesn't always mean that the people have the right experience, that the quality is going to be good enough. So get reviews, and most importantly, trust your gut. Do the research, but you know whether a supplier is really going to be good enough for your wedding. If you want any more advice like this, or you want to talk to other couples in your shoes, head over to our Facebook group, where we've got literally thousands of couples having conversations about this type of thing all the time. We'll make sure that the link's below. I'll see you next time.